The night sky hung heavy with inky darkness, and the sound of distant thunder echoed through the wide corridor. A single lamp flickered on the far wall, casting distorted shadows across the marble floor. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would rip through my chest. I could not understand the sudden chill that gripped me. It was late, and I could not remember why I had walked into this echoing hallway in the first place. Yet there I stood, hands shaking, breath short, staring at a door that should have been familiar to me. But I felt as though I was seeing it for the very first time. My pulse hammered against my temples, and an eerie tension built in my stomach. I reached out, trembling, to push the door open. When I finally did, I saw a sight I never expected. A woman, tears streaming down her cheeks, holding out her hand to me as if pleading for recognition. My mind reeled. I struggled for a moment before stepping back in shock. My voice cracked as I spoke the words that would soon change my life forever. "Wait, you're my wife?" That statement, that one question, changed everything in an instant. Before that moment, I had never felt so confused or lost. I was convinced I knew who I was and what my life looked like. But in that corridor, staring into the tearful eyes of the woman I apparently was married to, I realized my world was about to be turned upside down. I suppose I should explain how I got here. My name is Stephen Royce, and I am a millionaire. Growing up in a small, cramped apartment in a run-down part of the city, I had no idea I would ever become successful. I was not born with a silver spoon. My father worked as a mechanic, my mother as a diner waitress. They loved me, but we did not have much. From a young age, I promised myself I would work hard so we would never feel that kind of fear and want again. In time, I launched a series of businesses. Most of them failed. Some almost wiped me out, but a few ideas took off. Eventually, I found myself in a very comfortable position. A large estate on the outskirts of town, a fancy car or two, and a reputation as an up-and-coming figure in the business world. People started to invite me to charity galas and private dinners. My name was tossed into conversations about big investments and major ventures. I had arrived. But in all that time, I never fell in love. Not truly. There were short relationships that fizzled, or illusions that never developed into anything lasting. I was always too focused on expanding my business. I told myself that real love could wait. I had time. Life seemed straightforward. Then one day, everything changed and, apparently, I married someone I adored. Except at the moment I saw her, in that quiet hallway, and realized I did not recall who she was, my mind tumbled into panic. When she called out my name, Stephen, the gentle quiver in her voice forced me to stop. She was so vulnerable and looked so frightened. I thought I should know who she was, and I felt terrible that I did not. My memory was hazy, and a dull ache pulsated in the back of my head, as though something inside me had been messed up. It felt like trying to recall a dream that you know you had, but the details slip away the more you try to latch on to them. She wore a long blue evening dress with delicate lace along the edges. Her long brown hair fell in loose curls around her shoulders. She was breathtaking. Even if my mind was blank, my heart pounded with recognition of her beauty. Her eyes, a dark shade of green, sparkled with tears. I noticed a ring on her finger-me ring. A matching band glinted on my own left hand. My pulse quickened. "Stephen," she whispered, barely able to speak, "are you all right? You can't remember me?" I opened my mouth to answer, but all I could manage was a soft, I don't know. My head hurts. Panic took over, and my body began to shake. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't know what's going on." She reached out and lightly touched my arm. The warmth of her fingers sent a current of emotion through me, but I still could not piece together our story. She guided me into a more comfortable room, what looked like a lavish study. The floors were polished wood, and shelves of books lined the walls. A plush sofa in the corner offered a seat. She helped me sit down and gently pressed a cool cloth to my forehead. She introduced herself as Julia Royce. She spoke slowly, her voice trembling, trying to explain that we were married a year ago, and that we had been planning a romantic night to celebrate. She said she had been so excited, and that I had insisted we do something special, just the two of us in our own home. No staff, no big event. We wanted a quiet, private celebration for our anniversary. But something happened, an accident I could not recall. She said I hit my head earlier in the day while preparing for the evening, and that I stumbled away, disoriented. She had been frantically searching for me for over an hour. The relief on her face as she spoke was real. She was relieved to find me, but also terrified by my apparent memory loss. I listened in disbelief. How could I forget my own wife? How could my mind betray me so suddenly? Julia offered to call a doctor, but I shook my head. A strange part of me believed that if I just calmed down, the memories might resurface. She was so gentle, so patient, that I felt comforted in her presence. We sat there for a while, and she looked at me with an expression of deep longing. I wanted so badly to remember. I wanted to comfort her. Yet all I had was confusion. I tried to rest that evening. Julia led me to a large bedroom. It was simple yet elegant, with a king-sized bed against one wall and light curtains over the windows. She explained that this was our bedroom, that this space held countless memories of laughter and whispered conversations. I stared at the walls, trying to recall any detail, but everything still felt new. Worried about my condition, she suggested I lie down. I did, and she sat on the edge of the bed, her hand gently resting on my arm. Although my memory was gone, I could see how much she cared. She was afraid for me. That much was clear. The faint scent of her perfume drifted through the air. Something about that smell triggered a flicker in my mind. A memory, a faint glow of recognition. I saw an image of the two of us standing on a beach, her in a flowy white dress, wind in her hair, my arm around her waist, a gentle laugh, a promise to be with her forever. The image vanished as quickly as it came. I gasped and sat up. She leaned closer. "What is it?" she asked, eyes hopeful. "I saw a beach," I said, speaking slowly. "We were there. You wore white, and I was. I was with you. I felt happy. I don't know if it was real or my imagination." She gave a shaky laugh, tears of relief shining in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "You said you wanted it to feel like we were the only people in the world. It was so quiet and peaceful. You even hired local musicians to play soft music. It was beautiful." I closed my eyes, trying to recall more, but the image had faded. Julia exhaled and rubbed my arm, telling me not to force it. She stood, telling me she would make some tea to help me sleep. I watched her leave the room. My heart clenched. I felt something warm and genuine for her, even if my mind struggled to place it in context. I had to remember this woman I apparently cherished enough to marry. Live's morning sunlight broke through the curtains the next day. My sleep had been restless, filled with half-remembered dreams of laughter and joy. I could see fleeting images, me kneeling with a ring in my hand, tears in Julia's eyes, a vow I made to always keep her safe. Then I woke, feeling uncertain if what I saw was real, or just my mind trying to cope. Julia knocked softly on the door before entering with a breakfast tray. She wore a gentle smile, but her eyes carried concern. "Good morning," she said. "I brought you something to eat. I know you must be feeling overwhelmed." She set the tray on the nightstand. Eggs, toast, bacon, and a glass of orange juice. My stomach growled, reminding me I had not eaten. Despite the tension, I tried to smile. "Thank you," I said softly. She sat on the edge of the bed as I began to eat. I glanced around the room again. It felt more familiar somehow, as though my mind was telling me I had woken up here many times before. The corners of my memory still felt unreachable, but I sensed that the path was less blocked now. After breakfast, Julia took me on a tour of our house. It was massive, with high ceilings and walls lined with artwork I did not even know I owned. She explained that I had a keen eye for rare paintings. I listened intently. Everywhere we went, she pointed out items tied to special moments in our life together. The antique vase we purchased on a trip to Europe, the piano we bought because she always wanted to learn, the chandelier that used to be in my parents' small living room, but had been refurbished and given a place of honor above the grand staircase. Step by step, Julia revealed the story of our life in that home. The photos on the walls showed us grinning together. One photo had me standing behind her, arms around her waist. Another showed us with her parents, all of us smiling at a holiday gathering. I paused in front of a large frame containing a picture of the beach wedding she had mentioned. We looked so happy, the ocean behind us reflecting the sun's glow. A wave of emotion washed over me. I wanted to remember the bliss I must have felt. I wanted to recall the laughter, the vows, the reasons I fell in love with her. I stared at the photo for a long while. She let me stand there, giving me the space I needed. For the next few days, we tried to settle into a routine. Julia arranged for a private physician to check on me. He said I must have suffered a mild concussion when I fell. With rest and gentle reminders, some or all of my memories might come back. Each morning, Julia and I had breakfast together. She shared small stories about how we met. She said it was at a fundraiser where I had given a speech to inspire donations for a children's hospital. She was there as a volunteer, helping with decorations. I spilled some champagne on her dress by accident when I wasn't paying attention to where I was going. She laughed it off. Something about her easygoing nature pulled me in. I apologized and offered to buy her a new dress. She refused, but teased me, saying I could make it up by dancing with her. And so we danced. And from that night on, we never lost touch. Hearing the story, I could imagine the scene. My face flushed a bit, because it sounded exactly like something that could have happened. I was never graceful at such events. I always felt out of place, like a normal guy wearing a rich man's suit. Julia, on the other hand, was warm and open. The more she told me, the more I saw flickers in my mind. The recollections were not complete, but they were there. Julia also told me about the challenges. We had our share of misunderstandings. My business demanded a lot of my time, and she had her own passions working in a local nonprofit that helped underprivileged children. She was proud and independent, so she did not want to lean on my wealth to support her cause. We had arguments, tears, and reconciliations. Each story she told displayed a deep bond that we had built. I found myself growing fond of her by the day, even as I struggled with the amnesia. I felt a strange tug inside me. I saw how patient Julia was being, how worried she seemed whenever I looked lost. Despite not remembering everything, I realized I wanted to show her how much she mattered to me even in my current, confused state. I asked her to let me plan an evening just for the two of us. She tried to protest, saying I should rest, but I insisted. I did not know all the details of her likes and dislikes anymore, but I had glimpses. I recalled that she adored music. She once told me about wanting to learn the piano, though she felt shy about playing in public. That day, I walked to the old piano in one of the sitting rooms and lifted the lid. I pressed a few keys, hoping to recall a melody. My mind was blank at first, but I kept at it, believing I might remember something. Sure enough, a simple tune floated into my thoughts. It was something I used to play for her. My fingers stumbled a bit. My mind was not entirely clear, but I managed a short, gentle piece. I noticed her standing in the doorway, watching, tears gathering in her eyes. "That was the lullaby you played for me once," she murmured. I nodded, a small spark of joy in my chest. I didn't know if I'd remember. She approached, sat beside me on the piano bench, and just rested her head on my shoulder. The moment felt perfect, and for the first time since my memory loss, I felt a real sense of peace. I realized I might not remember everything just yet, but the love between us must have been real. The closeness, the gentle atmosphere, felt too genuine to be an illusion. But as comforting as these days were, there was something that did not sit right with me. A faint sense of dread lingered in the back of my mind. Sometimes I felt like I was on the edge of recalling a painful secret, something I had locked away. I would hear a name in my dreams, Vincent, or maybe it was Victor, and wake up feeling uneasy. My heart would race, and sweat would bead on my forehead. Julia noticed my distress, but each time I tried to explain, I could not make sense of it. The memory was too foggy. One night, while Julia slept soundly beside me, I sneaked out of bed and wandered through the house. The hallways were dimly lit. The door was large and made of sturdy oak. Why was this room locked? I tried the handle, but it would not budge. I felt a spike of anxiety. Part of me sensed that behind this door lay something important. The next day, I decided to ask Julia about the locked room. She looked surprised, as though she had not expected me to notice it so soon. Her eyes darted away for a moment before she explained that the room used to be my private study. It was where I conducted serious business dealings, stored confidential documents, and sometimes retreated when I needed quiet. She said I had locked it a few weeks before my injury, muttering something about needing to clear my thoughts and protect certain files. She insisted that the room just contained old paperwork, but her voice quivered as she said it, and I wondered if she was keeping something from me. I could not shake the feeling that something was off. My love for Julia felt real and deep, even though I struggled to piece it together fully. Yet there was tension in the house, as if a secret hovered in the corners, waiting to pounce. I told myself that maybe I was being paranoid. Still, the memory of that name, Vincent, or Victor, lurking in my dreams, gnawed at me. To distract myself, I focused on building new memories with Julia. One afternoon, we decided to ride horses across the estate. Apparently, it was something we did together on weekends. We arrived at the stable and were greeted by a stable hand who clearly knew us well. He guided us to two familiar horses. Julia called hers Willow, a graceful mare with soft eyes. Mine was named King, a strong stallion with a proud posture. I approached King, giving him a reassuring pat on the neck. As we rode into the open fields, I noticed Julia's face light up. She absolutely loved the outdoors. The fresh air carried the scent of wildflowers, and the sky overhead was a brilliant blue. We trotted side by side. She mentioned that I used to tease her whenever she got too competitive, because she was always trying to race me, even though her horse was slower. My eyebrows rose with amusement. "So you tried to race me when your horse was slower?" I asked, a playful grin on my face. She shrugged and laughed. "I guess I liked a good challenge. Besides, you always slowed down halfway to let me catch up." A flicker of memory came back to me. Julia laughing, leaning forward in her saddle, her hair whipping behind her in the wind. Me feigning shock when she zipped past, only to gallop ahead again once she thought she had won. It was a light-hearted memory, one that made me smile. For a second, it felt like old times. Maybe we were forging a path back to what we had. I sat in the living room, going through a stack of photo albums. I had found them in a closet while I was looking for something else. Julia was in the kitchen preparing dinner. The pictures spanned our entire relationship. The fundraiser where we met, our wedding on the beach, various trips, family gatherings, and silly candid shots. The more I looked, the more I felt my heart open up. I was amazed by how happy we seemed in every image, how natural it was for us to hold each other, laugh together, and share small jokes. As I flipped to another page, a photograph fell out. It must have been tucked in between the pages. I picked it up, turning it over in my hand. It showed me standing next to a tall man with sharp features, dark hair, and a confident grin. He had his arm around my shoulder, like we were close friends or even partners. On the back of the photo was a handwritten note. "Stephen and Vincent, congratulations on the new contract." My heart lurched. The name was Vincent, not Victor, as I had half remembered in my dreams. My mind buzzed with questions. Who was Vincent? The note mentioned a new contract. Was he a business partner, a friend from my circle, or something else? The memory of hearing that name in my nightmares rushed back, and a surge of fear knotted my stomach. Why did it scare me? I glanced toward the kitchen, wondering if Julia knew about him, or if she was hiding something. I resolved to ask her, but something made me hesitate. I wasn't sure if she would be honest, or if she would dodge the topic again. The next day, I tried to go through my personal laptop. It was password protected, and normally that would not be a problem, except I could not remember the password. I tried a few guesses, birthdays, simple codes, but nothing worked. I felt frustration mounting. Julia found me hunched over the desk, frowning at the locked screen. "Need help?" she asked, stepping into the study with a cup of coffee. I sighed, rubbing my temple. Yes. I can't figure out the password. It's like I'm a stranger to my own life. Julia set the coffee down and glanced at the screen. She suggested a date that was meaningful to use her wedding anniversary. I typed it in, and to my relief, the screen unlocked. I let out a breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment, though it was overshadowed by my continuing amnesia. Still, it was progress. As I searched through my computer files, I found spreadsheets of financial data, proposals, and emails. Julia quietly left, giving me space to sift through them. Before long, I stumbled upon a folder labeled Private Vincent. My heart thumped loudly in my chest. I clicked it open, scanning the documents inside. There were contracts referencing a partnership between my company and Vincent's. The details were vague, but it seemed we formed a joint venture to buy and sell real estate properties. One email exchange caught my eye. From Vincent R. to Stephen Royce, subject. "Stephen, we need to talk. The last audit showed some major irregularities. I know you're uneasy about the risk we took, but we can't back out now. If we do, we'll both go down, and your reputation will be shattered. We have to push through." I felt my stomach drop. Risk? Irregularities? Something about these words made my hands tremble. Had I been involved in something shady? Had Vincent pressured me into a risky deal? And why was my reputation at stake? I confronted Julia about Vincent. We sat in the living room, the fireplace crackling softly. Her eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion when I mentioned his name. "I found documents," I said, my tone careful. "It looks like Vincent and I were partners. There were messages about some big risk, about not backing out of a deal. Do you know anything about it?" Julia pressed her lips together. "I do, but I wasn't sure if I should tell you right away, given your condition." I searched her expression. "I need to know. Please." She nodded, clasping her hands in her lap. "You and Vincent started a large real estate project. At first, everything seemed fine, but as time went on, Vincent began to make questionable decisions. He wanted to cut corners, push deals that were not entirely legal. You got caught up in the middle. By the time you realized the danger, it was too late. He threatened to expose your involvement if you tried to pull out. He said he would tell everyone that you were the mastermind and that he was just a pawn. It would ruin your business reputation." My chest tightened. "What did I do about it?" "You tried to negotiate, to handle it discreetly. You planned to gather evidence against him and back out of the deal carefully. But one evening, after a heated argument in your private study, you locked the room. You said you would not open it until you found a safe way to resolve everything. My mind reeled. Could this have led to the strange fear I felt at night? Hearing the name, Vincent? It made sense. The stress, the possible betrayal, the sense of being trapped. Maybe that was the dark shadow I sensed behind my amnesia. Maybe, in my subconscious, I was trying to block out the weight of that problem. Breaking into the study armed with this knowledge, I felt a strong urge to open that locked study. Julia gave me the key, and I quietly made my way to the room in the east wing. She accompanied me, though she looked nervous. We stepped inside. The room was dim, dust covering the wooden desk and shelves. Papers were scattered everywhere, old coffee cups left to the side. It looked like I had been working intensely for hours, then left in a hurry. Julia turned on the light, illuminating rows of files. I noticed a large filing cabinet in the corner, locked with a sturdy padlock. My heart pounded. This must be where I kept the evidence. Julia told me I used to keep the key in a hidden compartment in the desk. Sure enough, under a loose board in one of the drawers, we found a small key. With shaking hands, I tried it on the lock and it clicked open. Inside were folders labeled with property addresses, transaction details, and names of shell companies. My eyes widened. There were notes detailing bribes and forged permits. The net of illegal activities stretched beyond just Vincent and me. I saw big sums of money that appeared to have passed through various accounts. Julia pointed to a letter typed up on crisp paper. "This is from the day before your accident," she said, handing it to me. The letter was addressed to my attorney. In it, I stated I was withdrawing my involvement from the questionable deals and that I had gathered proof of Vincent's wrongdoing. I wanted to turn that evidence over, even if it meant risking a scandal. I wrote that my conscience would not let me keep going down that path. I also mentioned Julia, saying I could not break her trust. The date on the letter was the day before I fell and lost my memory. I sank into the nearby chair, reeling from the discovery. Even though I still did not recall every detail, I felt proud of the man I was choosing to do the right thing, even if it was dangerous. At the same time, an overwhelming dread gripped me. Vincent was not the type of person to let this go easily. It did not take long for the other shoe to drop. Just as I was beginning to piece everything together, we received a threatening phone call. I heard her voice tremble, and I rushed to her side. She handed me the phone without a word, her face ashen. A deep voice crackled on the other line. "Stephen, I hear you're trying to step away from our agreement," the man snarled. "Don't be a fool. You know what's at stake." It was Vincent. Even though my memory was spotty, my body recognized the voice. A surge of anger and fear made my hand grip the phone tightly. "I'm done, Vincent," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I have the evidence. I will turn it in if you try to drag me down." He laughed, a hollow and sharp sound. "Oh, Stephen, you think you can scare me with evidence? I can spin it any way I like. And you've forgotten so much, haven't you? Your memory is gone. Let's see what a jury thinks when you can't even recall your own part in all of this. Keep your mouth shut, or your sweet wife might suffer the consequences." Rage boiled in my veins. "Don't you dare threaten her," I hissed, my heart racing. He chuckled again. "Be careful, friend. You know I have ways of getting what I want. Stay in line or your precious marriage won't be so romantic anymore." The line went dead. I stood there, shaking with fury and fear. Julia gazed at me, eyes brimming with concern. She asked, "What did he say?" I could barely form the words. "He threatened you if I don't comply." From that moment on, I knew I had to protect Julia at all costs. That was my vow, even if my mind still struggled to piece everything together. We decided to involve the authorities, but quietly. Julia called a detective she trusted. We arranged a discreet meeting to hand over the files. I wanted the police on our side, but I knew we had to be careful. Vincent had resources. He might have people watching. My top priority was to ensure Julia was safe. We stayed close to the estate, only leaving for essential errands and that secret meeting with the detective. Every time we ventured out, I felt like someone was watching us. My mind swirled with paranoia, even though I tried to remain calm. As the days passed, my memory began to improve. More images returned to me. I recalled a night when Julia and I danced in the living room, slow music playing while the fireplace crackled. I remembered her laughter as I spun her around, her arms wrapped around my neck. I could see the pure love in her eyes, which matched the warmth in my own heart. The recollection gave me strength. Julia was everything to me. Even without complete recollection, I felt that love so strongly that it overwhelmed me. Each gentle touch, each worried look, reminded me that we shared a bond worth fighting for. My only regret was not telling her sooner about the danger with Vincent. Maybe if I had confided in her, we could have come up with a safer plan. But now, with the detective's help, we had a chance to make things right. And the storm amid the chaos. We did not forget our intention to celebrate our first wedding anniversary in a special way. Strangely enough, that romantic night had triggered my memory loss in the first place. But we vowed not to let fear steal our happiness. Julia and I decided to plan a simple yet intimate evening at home, just as we initially intended. We agreed that we should not let Vincent's threats control our lives. We would be cautious, but we would not succumb to terror. On the evening of our anniversary, the house was quiet, except for a soft playlist of our favorite songs. Julia wore a flowing emerald green dress that highlighted her eyes. She looked absolutely radiant. I wore a charcoal suit, feeling a bit nervous, like it was our first date all over again. In a sense, it was a chance to reconnect and make new memories that would overshadow the darkness that tried to tear us apart. Dinner was a candle-lit affair in the dining room, the table adorned with fresh flowers. We laughed about little things: the first time we tried cooking together and set off the smoke alarm, the time I slipped on wet grass trying to propose to her, how we secretly fed the neighbor's cat because we worried it might be hungry. Each funny story opened up a door in my mind, allowing me to recall more of our journey. After dessert, we moved to the living room. Soft music floated through the air. I took Julia's hand, guiding her into a slow dance. Her head rested on my chest, and my arms wrapped around her waist. My heart was pounding not only with love, but with a sense of relief. We were together, and no matter how much Vincent tried to threaten us, this was real. Our connection was stronger than fear. If anything, these trials only proved how deep our love ran. We had just finished our dance when the doorbell rang, its chime echoing ominously through the house. Julia and I exchanged worried looks. We were not expecting anyone. My mind instantly leaped to Vincent. Could he really be so bold as to show up on our anniversary? Cautiously, I made my way to the door. I peered through the peephole and saw a figure standing on the porch, face shrouded in the darkness of the night. My heart thumped. I flipped on the porch light, and the figure's features became clearer. It was indeed Vincent. He wore a long coat, his dark hair slicked back. His expression was unreadable. I opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain in place. "What are you doing here?" I demanded in a low voice. He gave a tight smile. "Stephen, you've been ignoring my calls. We need to talk, and I won't be brushed aside." He tried to peer past me into the house. "I know you're in possession of documents that could implicate me. Hand them over, and we can put this whole messy situation behind us." My voice shook with anger. "You threatened my wife. Do you think I would just bend to your will after that?" He exhaled sharply. "You're making a mistake. I'm giving you one final chance, Stephen. If you turn those files in, you'll go down too. You can't be so naive as to think you'll come out of this clean." I felt Julia's hand on my shoulder. She had crept up behind me, concerned about what was happening. She spoke calmly. "We've already handed the files to someone we trust. Soon, the authorities will have them. You can't threaten us anymore." Vincent's eyes flickered with fury. He looked at me, then at Julia, his gaze cold. "You'll regret this," he spat. "I promise." He spun on his heel and stalked off into the darkness. Julia locked the door the moment he left. We both stood there, hearts pounding. The romantic atmosphere we had tried to create was shattered by Vincent's intrusion. Fear clung to the air. Yet, mixed in with the fear was a sense of resolution. We had done the right thing. We would not be bullied. However, the night was not over. About an hour later, we heard a commotion outside. Through the window, we saw headlights flashing across the front lawn. 2 cars screeched to a stop, and men got out, huddling together. I recognized Vincent's silhouette among them. My heart hammered wildly. They seemed to be debating something. Julia clutched my arm. "We have to call the police," she whispered. I nodded. But before I could reach for my phone, we heard the sound of glass shattering in another part of the house. My stomach lurched. They were breaking in. I grabbed Julia's hand, and we scrambled for a safe place. She pulled me toward the back door that led out to the garden. We could escape, run to the neighbors, or find a hiding place on the grounds. But my sense of dread spiked when I realized the men might be blocking that path as well. We ended up back in the hallway, hearts racing, hearing heavy footsteps in the living room. Furniture toppled as they searched for us. My mind raced for a plan. I led Julia up the staircase to the second floor. I recalled a hidden passage behind one of the walls. As a boy, I once dreamt of having secret tunnels in a big house. When I got rich enough, I actually installed a small hidden area. We dashed into the hallway that led to the door of the hidden passage. My hands were shaking so badly it took me a moment to locate the latch. Finally, we slid inside, closing the panel behind us. Chapter 18. Trapped in darkness, inside the hidden passage, it was pitch black. Dust tickled my nostrils. I could feel Julia's hand in mine, both of us trembling. We heard voices echo through the house as Vincent's men shouted orders to each other. "Find the documents!" one voice barked. "Check every room! They have to be here somewhere!" Time seemed to slow. My mind whirled with regrets and fears. I whispered to Julia, "I'm so sorry. If I had stayed away from Vincent in the first place, we wouldn't be in this mess." She squeezed my hand. "You tried to do the right thing, Stephen. We will get out of this. We just have to hold on." We stayed silent as footsteps clomped by. Occasionally we heard glass breaking, furniture crashing. It sounded like they were tearing the house apart. Tension coiled in my stomach. I desperately hoped the detective we met had given the police the evidence. Maybe they were on their way. The minutes dragged on, each second feeling like an eternity. Suddenly the footsteps became louder, as though someone was right outside our hidden wall. Julia and I held our breath. A muffled voice called out, "Check the second floor more thoroughly. There might be something hidden." My pulse roared in my ears. My thoughts went to how fragile the latch was. If they tapped on the wall, they would realize it was hollow. My heart hammered so loudly I worried they would hear it. After what felt like hours, the voices grew distant, then disappeared downstairs. We heard the men stomp away and slam the doors to certain rooms, still searching. Julia and I looked at each other in the darkness, hardly daring to hope they would not find us. Arrive. It was not long before the sounds of sirens split the tense silence. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. I heard loud voices commanding people to freeze, along with confusion and shouting. Julia and I exchanged relieved looks. The police must have arrived. We waited a bit longer, not daring to leave our hiding place just yet. Eventually, the house grew quiet. We heard a new voice calling out, "This is the police. Is anyone upstairs?" I recognized the voice of the detective we had spoken to earlier. Cautiously, I slid open the hidden door. Julia and I emerged, stepping into the hallway, hearts still pounding. Several police officers were on the stairs, shining flashlights. When they saw us, they hurried over. The detective approached, relief evident on his face. "We got a tip that something was happening here. Good thing we came when we did. Are you both all right?" Julia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, thank you." "They're in custody," the detective said. "Vincent and his men have been arrested. The evidence you provided was enough for us to move in. We'll need you to give an official statement, of course. But for now, you're safe." I took a shaky breath, wrapping an arm around Julia. "Thank you," I managed, my voice thick with emotion. The weight of the danger lifted off my shoulders. Finally, we were free from Vincent's threats. I knew the road ahead would involve legal proceedings and testimonies, but the immediate fear was gone. In the days that followed, Julia and I tried to pick up the pieces. The house needed repairs, but more importantly, we needed time to heal from the ordeal. My memory continued to improve steadily. Small details returned to me every day. Jokes we shared, places we visited, the way Julia liked her coffee in the morning. Bit by bit, the puzzle of our life reassembled itself. I began to feel whole again. The authorities confirmed that Vincent was behind a wide range of illegal ventures. With the evidence we provided, the case against him was strong. He would no longer pose a threat to us. My business associates rallied around me. Many expressed relief that I was finally out of Vincent's grasp. Some apologized for not stepping in sooner, but I did not hold it against them. Fear often keeps good people silent. Julia and I spent our time rebuilding trust with each other and re-establishing the peaceful life we had before. One afternoon, as we sat in the study that once held so many secrets, I turned to her. "I'm sorry that our first year of marriage ended with so much chaos. You deserved a calmer life than this." She took my hand, eyes shining with that same deep affection that had always drawn me to her. "We've been through a lot, but we faced it together. That's what matters. Besides, I married you because I love who you are, and who you are is a man who won't let fear control his life." My heart swelled. "I only wish I could remember every single detail of our time together," I confessed. She smiled. "Then let's make more memories. And maybe, in time, all the old ones will come back. Even if they don't, we'll create new ones just as beautiful." Not long after, on a clear, sunny day, Julia and I decided to renew our vows. It was a private, intimate ceremony, just a few friends and family, gathered under the warm sun. I wore a simple white linen shirt, and she wore a white sundress that moved gracefully in the breeze. Standing barefoot in the sand, the ocean lapping near our feet, we looked into each other's eyes. The officiant smiled gently, nodding for us to speak. I cleared my throat, my voice a bit shaky from emotion. "Julia," I began, "you are my wife and my partner in every sense. Life tried to make me forget you, but my heart could never let go of our love. Today I renew my promise to protect you, cherish you, and stand by you. No matter what obstacles come our way, we will face them together." Julia's eyes glistened with tears. She took my hands in hers. "Stephen," she replied, her voice quivering with warmth, "our journey has been complicated, but through it all, our bond grew stronger. Even when you lost your memory, your heart remembered me. That means everything. I promise to love you, support you, and share all your joys and sorrows. I choose you again and again, forever." When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife again, I leaned in and kissed Julia softly, the ocean breeze carrying our joy across the shore. Applause echoed from our small group of loved ones. It felt like the fresh start we both needed. Returning home from the vow renewal, I felt like a different person. My memory was not fully back, but the important pieces had fallen into place. More than anything, I knew that the love between Julia and me was true and unwavering. The next few weeks were peaceful. The house was once again a place of comfort. One morning, as I walked through the garden, I spotted Julia tending to the flowers. She wore a sun hat. Without a second thought, I joined her, kneeling by her side. She smiled up at me, her face glowing in the sunlight. "How are the flowers doing?" I asked, gently brushing a leaf. "They're thriving," she said happily. "Sunlight, water." I chuckled. "That's a good rule for life in general." She teased me. "Have you been reading self-help books again?" "Who needs them?" I joked. "I have you." We both laughed, and the sound filled the garden with life. In that moment, everything felt right. We might have scars from the trauma we had endured, but they only made us appreciate our shared bond more. One weekend, I decided to surprise Julia with a special evening. We had been so focused on the vow renewal and the aftermath of Vincent's arrest that we never truly got to have a normal anniversary celebration. I wanted to give her a night she would remember for all the right reasons. I asked some close friends to help set up a romantic scene on the estate's back patio. We hung fairy lights around the pillars and laid out soft cushions and blankets on the ground. A violinist, a friend of ours, offered to play gentle music. By the time Julia stepped outside, guided by one of our friends, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She gasped in delight at the sight of the sparkling lights. I took her hand and led her to the cushions, where a small table held 2 glasses of champagne. The violinist started playing a tune we both recognized from our wedding day, the same melody I had tried to play on the piano. Julia's eyes shone. She squeezed my hand. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "You didn't have to do this." I guided her to the makeshift dance floor, smiling. "I wanted to. We lost our chance for a peaceful first anniversary night. Let's treat this as our special celebration." We swayed to the music under the glowing lights. The sweet fragrance of flowers drifted on the breeze, and the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. For a moment, it was just the two of us, hearts beating in time, no worries clouding our joy. When the song ended, I led her to the table. "To us," I said, lifting my champagne flute, "for overcoming so many trials, for finding our way back to each other, and for all the memories we're going to make." She clinked her glass against mine. "To us." We sat there for a while, sipping champagne, sharing soft laughter. Eventually, our friends quietly slipped away, leaving us alone under the starlit sky. Julia leaned her head on my shoulder, and I placed an arm around her, pulling her closer. "Stephen," she said softly, "can I ask you something?" I nodded, brushing a stray hair from her face. "Of course." She hesitated, looking up at the stars. "Do you ever worry that you might not get all your memories back, that you'll forget something important about us?" I considered her question. Part of me still felt that fear, the nagging idea that some pieces might never fully return. But I also realized that love was more than a collection of memories. It was a choice, an ongoing dedication. "I do wonder," I admitted. "I might not recall every moment we've shared, but I remember enough to know that you're the one I love, and every day, I choose to stay with you and build new memories. That's what really counts." She turned to face me, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I love you so much," she whispered. My response was simple. I kissed her gently, feeling all the warmth and promise in that one act. Late that night, as we cleaned up the patio, an uneasy feeling crept over me. Something about the stillness in the air made my hair stand on end. Julia noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, a hint of concern returning to her voice. I looked around, scanning the darkness beyond the fairy lights. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just being overly cautious. It's hard to shake the feeling that Vincent could appear again. Julia touched my arm, reassuring me. He's behind bars. The detective said there is solid proof against him. He won't be out anytime soon. I nodded, trying to calm myself. We headed back into the house, locking up carefully. We were about to go upstairs when we both heard a faint tapping noise coming from the direction of the living room. We froze. My pulse quickened. Was someone inside? I motioned for Julia to stay back. Quietly, I moved toward the living room door, heart pounding in my chest. I inched forward, flicked on the light, and prepared for the worst. The room was empty. No sign of forced entry. I frowned, stepping further in, scanning corners and under furniture. My heart thundered with each step. Suddenly, I noticed the window was slightly open. The breeze must have been causing something to tap against the glass. I exhaled a shaky breath, feeling a bit foolish. But before I could close it, I saw a shadow outside a figure in the yard, illuminated briefly by the moonlight. My blood ran cold. It might have been a trick of the light, but it looked eerily like Vincent's silhouette. I stared for a moment, blinking hard. Then the figure vanished. I raced to the window, flung it open wider, and shouted, "Who's there?" Julia approached, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Did you see something?" I hesitated, peering into the darkness. "I thought I did," I whispered. "Maybe my mind is just playing tricks on me." We both stood there, our hearts still pounding with residual fear. Finally, I closed and locked the window. We walked upstairs in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. As we prepared for bed, I couldn't help but keep glancing at the windows, my nerves on edge. The next day, I called the detective to share my concern. He assured me that Vincent was still in custody, with no chance of making bail. Whatever I had seen must have been my imagination, or someone else entirely. While I felt relief, a sliver of anxiety remained. Sometimes trauma leaves behind ghostly echoes. But as the weeks rolled on, nothing happened. No strange sightings, no threatening calls. Life truly settled. I realized that night's scare was likely just a fragment of my fear, shaped by the moonlit shadows. I focused on the present. I had a wonderful wife who stood by me through everything. We faced a storm of deceit, betrayal, and danger, and we came out stronger. My business, too, began to rebound. The board members, once worried about the scandal, now rallied behind me. The story of how I took the ethical route turned into a positive headline, helping to restore trust in our brand. I found a renewed purpose, determined to run my companies with integrity. Meanwhile, Julia continued her work with her nonprofit. She came home each day with stories of children who found hope through the organization. I was proud to support her efforts, sometimes donating anonymously so that the cause benefited without my name overshadowing her passion. We were a team. One bright morning, I woke up to the sun streaming through the curtains, birds chirping outside. Julia was still asleep, curled up next to me. I watched her for a moment, remembering how just a short while ago, I had been startled by the realization that she was my wife. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. My head no longer throbbed with confusion. My heart was steady, brimming with affection for the woman beside me. Carefully, I rose and headed downstairs to make breakfast, a small gesture of love. As I whisked eggs and set bread to toast, I reflected on how fragile memories can be and how precious it is to remember the people we love. Yet even without some memories, the truth of our bond had guided me. After a few minutes, Julia appeared in the doorway, yawning softly. She smiled at the sight of me cooking. "Good morning," she said, her voice warm with love. "Good morning," I replied, returning her smile. "Hungry?" She grinned. "Always." We ate together at the kitchen table, chatting about the day ahead. There was no fear lurking in the corners, no secrets waiting to pounce. Our life had settled into a comforting rhythm of shared dreams, quiet mornings, and tender nights. When breakfast was done, I took her hand. "Let's go sit in the garden," I suggested. "It's a beautiful day." She agreed, and we walked outside, letting the sunlight wash over us. Sitting on a bench amid the blooming flowers, we listened to the breeze rustle the leaves. Julia leaned her head on my shoulder. I felt contentment flow through me. Despite the challenges me memory loss, Vincent's threats, the hidden files we had come out on the other side stronger. My love for Julia was real and powerful, and it felt like the greatest gift I could ever hold. She gazed up at me, her eyes shining. "Are you happy?" she asked softly. I tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I am," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "More than I ever thought possible." We lingered there, letting the moment envelop us in warmth and peace. And, in that quiet space, I knew that our story was far from over, but, whatever came next, we would face it together. Because love, true love, does not just vanish with memory loss or crumble under threats. It endures, and it grows. Our marriage was the proof of that. No longer did I have to say, "Wait, you're my wife," in shock. Now, I said, "You're my wife," in awe and gratitude every single day. The next year proved to be filled with joy and new horizons. My memory continued to improve until it was almost back to normal. On the rare occasion that I could not remember a small detail, Julia would laugh it off, calling it our little inside joke. She would remind me, and I would wink, pretending it was all part of my grand plan to make her tell our stories over and over again. We hosted a charity gala at our estate a few months later, inviting old and new friends. As I mingled among the guests, I felt a wave of gratitude. My life had once been about striving for success, always wanting more. Now, it was about cherishing what I had: me wife, our home, and the sense of purpose we shared. Towards the end of the evening, I saw Julia across the room, talking animatedly with a friend. She caught my eye, and a soft smile lit her face. In that moment, I remembered the very first time I saw her in that fundraiser hall, her dress stained with champagne, yet her spirit shining through so brightly. I smiled back, feeling that same rush of excitement I felt when I first fell in love with her. When the night ended and the last guest left, we found ourselves alone in the grand hallway, fairy lights twinkling overhead. Julia gave me a playful look. "Dance with me, Stephen." I pulled her close, and we swayed to the memory of the melody I once played on the piano. The hush of the night surrounded us. No matter how many challenges we faced, this moment felt timeless. The love we nurtured was stronger than forgotten memories, bigger than threats, and deeper than any fear. It was the kind of love that promised a lifetime of romance and quiet devotion. I breathed in the sweet scent of her perfume and whispered, "I love you, Mrs. Royce." She closed her eyes, smiling against my chest. "I love you too, Mr. Royce." And there, under the soft glow of the fairy lights, we danced into our futuria future, shaped by a love that endured everything fate threw our way. A future that proved, once and for all, that even when life's storms threatened to tear us apart, our bond was unbreakable. We chose each other, time and time again, and that choice made all the difference.